here we are at Chicago Archery's To the Point. We have a special day today. First thing I want to do is I want to make sure I do the proper introductions. Let's share this up here. All right. First of all, I want to thank Wings of Severance for that awesome opening. Those guys rock. They are currently playing at different places. Make sure you look them up on Wings of Severance. They got a Facebook page. We have they have dates and stuff that they list up there and where they're playing, and they're on iTunes and all these other things. But make sure you look them up. If you're trying to get a hold of us or me, you can do it at Chicago Archery's To the Point. CA to the point at gmail.com. It's on your screen. If you're watching it in YouTube, it's CATOTHEPOINT at gmail.com. Chicago Archery's To the Point at gmail.com. Send me an email if you have any ideas, interests, or anything like that. That's what kind of stemmed the one for today. That and some of my customers. Yes, I'm the owner of Chicago Archery. And today I'm going to stop sharing. I'm going to load up here. My special guest is Maddy. Maddy, one of my instructors. Let's move this a little bit, Maddy, so it's not completely in your face or something. There we go. All right. There. So now you got to lean into it a little bit. Yeah. Everybody wants to see your happy face, Maddy.
I guess so.
All right. So I'm going to introduce Maddy a little bit. And this is my favorite part because this is where I get to embarrass everybody.
Yep.
Maddy's been with me for how many years, Maddy?
Almost 4.5-ish now.
Right. Maddy came to me, a complete worthless individual, and we have brought her into the world. Now, actually, Maddy was an archery enthusiast. Her dad was a very good friend of a business partner, which ended up your dad. I love your dad to death. I mean, I see your dad a lot. Well, I used to see him a lot more.
Yeah, I got to get him back in the shop.
Yeah. Your dad is a great archer, great guy, super helpful. When we were building the shop, unbelievable. My go-to guy. I can't say enough about your dad. Now I'm going to talk shit about you. Maddy is currently enrolled at Lewis University. She is a aircraft maintenance mechanic, earning her certifications right now, completing some of them. She is going to be full-time employed as a maintenance aircraft. She will still be here, everybody that takes lessons with Maddy.
Don't worry, I'll be here Saturday.
Yeah, she'll be here Saturdays. We have hung on to Maddy as long as we possibly can. Mostly because I think I give her a discount on everything she buys, if not the free stuff. So our manufacturer reps love Maddy. She's a good go-to, a superb archer. And I want everybody to know that Maddy is a girl and she pulls a 60-pound bow, which I've seen a lot of you guys out there that couldn't do that if you tried. So Maddy has superb technique. Just a great shot, great personality. As you can tell, she's a chatty Cathy.
Right.
Yes.
Definitely.
Yes. So when we first got Maddy, her dad told me, he says, you're going to have a problem. She doesn't like to talk. And I said, well, that's fucking bullshit because you got to talk to your students and stuff. And I said, you're going to talk. And she says, okay. And I said, and that was the last word I heard for her for about a week. She listens very well.
Yeah.
But now she's learning to talk. So today is a big day for Maddy. She's going worldwide. She's going to talk to everybody. We're going to try to shut
podcast.
Her.
Yeah.
Look at her. I can't even shut her up. She's awesome. Well, one thing I heard from your mom is that she goes, Maddy doesn't say much, but man, when she leaves working here, she tells me about her whole day, which is awesome. I thought that was so cool. So it shows you're willing to put yourself out there. So that's Maddy in a nutshell. If you don't know her more, come and get some lessons from her. She is a fantastic archer. Recurve, compound, no worries. Teaching yourself left-handed recurve, I hear.
Yeah, trying Olympic style. It's Amanda makes fun of me for it, but I'm trying.
But she's a right-handed shooter, so she's teaching herself left-handed to help with identifying issues with your students, right?
Right.
So it's awesome. All my instructors do this. They're great at what they do, and we all know that. I think highly of my. If you have to put in an application to be at Chicago Archery, you're not going to get the job. I pretty much hand choose who works here. I'm looking at the picture here. Got my chest hanging out. Don't want to show too much skin. Then I get all the the emails. So, anyways, so let's get started on what we want to talk about. So, oh man, I didn't bring up the email with the pictures, but anyways, there will be pictures on our Instagram, Chicago Archery. There's going to be Chicago Archery Bow Hunter that's the one that I run. So you'll see more not filtered stuff there, I guess you'd say, just like this podcast. So just so everybody knows, if your young children, you want to watch, go in the other room. Do not listen to this podcast because I'm going to be fucking swearing the entire time. And I don't want you to fucking hear anything that I have to say. And I do that just so everybody knows. I put explicit on my YouTube so you guys can know that there's explicit language here. We want it to be free for all. Like you're coming into the shop, you're talking to us. So one of the things and I hear this all the time because as you do, Maddy, you hear all the time. They want to talk about the heavyweight arrows and the heavyweight tips that these morons that are putting on their bows. And we're going to tell our opinion with what little testing that we've done, right? So Maddy and I did a little testing the last couple days. And we stayed late last night and put together some arrows and did a quick shot test. I have these arrows in the shop. If you have a 60 or 70 pound bow, you're more than welcome to come shoot these arrows, get your own test, right? We kept the 4 arrows.
Yep.
Since this is a podcast, I'm going to explain everything with the pictures and everything, but I am going to, I don't know if I can bring them up while I'm doing it, but I'm going to try to, I don't know if you guys are seeing this or not. If you are, fine, the inbox. I'm going to show a couple things. Well, you know what? Screw it. I'm just going to go back. Let's see if we can save this picture. So what we're going to do is, let's see if I can save it. I save attachment. There we go. I'm just going to put it in pictures. All right. So as you guys know, in a lot of the stuff that I do here, it's very raw. It's very the podcasts are very raw. They're off the cuff. I don't edit them. I don't do none of that garbage. And I hope this didn't show. I guess it might have showed. I don't know. We'll see. It's raw. So we do this. I don't edit it. What we have to say is what we have to say. We don't script it out. I do put in some notes of what I want to cover, so we make sure we cover everything we can. All right. We're going to say it started at 5:02. So we try not to run it more than 45 minutes to an hour. So we're going to try to keep it close to 45. So we're going to run through some of this stuff.
All right.
Okay. We're going to start out with, this is for your new buyers. We're going to do a couple little things. I always try to do stuff for when somebody's buying a bow, because I do own a bow shop and we get a lot of people in here. And most important, an educated, and when I say educated, not YouTube educated, an educated buyer makes a more educated purchase.
Absolutely. You got to know kind of what you're going into before you can pick out what you do and don't like.
Right. And that detailing and some of the stuff for what we're talking about, like brace height and
Yeah, brace height, axle to axle, the actual geometry of the bow, a lot of that's going to be, you want to have some sort of research into it, some sort of idea what you're looking at. Because we can give you our best opinion, but, um, you got to have a bit of an idea of what you want to look at, what you want to get out of a bow.
Right, exactly. Experience is huge. We ask you some questions, and then we can think, okay, with our knowledge and what we've seen and how well people do with certain things and stuff like that. Especially, here's a little trick that we do for everybody. And I'm gonna put this out here, and most people don't know it. But we ask everybody to hold the bow first and see how it feels in their hand. And that's a great thing. So they can say, oh, I love this bow the way it's comfort. And we get to see how you're holding the bow. Right.
Right.
And we get to see how you're going to torque that thing. So
Mm-hmm.
we know the grips and the angles of the grips and some of the stuff. So they say, oh man, you picked out this bow for me. I never would have thought it. And it shoots great. I've never shot like that before. That's because our experience comes into play. That's why you come to us, right? And we're not going to tell you everything we do. And yeah, obviously in the podcast, I'm telling you a little bit. It's not everything, but we're trying to get as much out there. So you can come in there and you can do it proper, and we can give you a proper bow. So that's one of the things that we look at. So buying a bow, we have an education. So now that's one of the things we like for you guys to have. So let's talk a little bit about your bow and what you're going to do with it. So one of the questions that comes up is when a new bow buyer or somebody that's had a bow for like their first year or second year, what's one of the things that everybody asks us is maintenance, right?
Mm-hmm.
And we like to do a tune-up at least once a year, depending on how much you shoot. If you shoot it all year long, all the time, 1 or 2 tune-ups for the year is going to do good. And that kind of gives you a new D loop, gets me to go over it, the timing. I check your rest fall, tensions,
Gotta go over, make sure everything's square, level.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And we look at that, like when we pick up a bow, the girls pick up the bow. And I say the girls because mostly females work here. We do have Scott. And
yeah.
But he's the odd man out besides me. But he's the other employee here. But the employees pick up the bow and they look at it and they look for square and stuff, and they'll give me a little bump like, hey, a little elbow, watch this, this thing's been, the rest has been pushed or this or that. So that's one of the things. So bow maintenance, one of the things is that we do is when you come in and bring it in for a tune-up, right? And give a good look over. One of the things that you do is
kind of keep an eye on it, make sure look for things that could potentially be wrong. A lot of times say check the strings, make sure you're going over that with wax every now and then. But just kind of making sure nothing's moving on you, making sure nothing's cracking. I mean, if it ever is, bring it in, but
vibration
is
yes. Bang on the side of the bow. I tell everybody this when they buy a bow from us, and up until when they come up and they'll say, when they hand me a bow and they say, hey, we're in here for a tune-up, first thing I do is I bang on the side of the bow with my fist.
Mm-hmm.
I want to hear if something rattles, because that gives me my first thing, and I'll put that on the ticket. I got a rattle from the top end. I got a rattle from the low end. Something could be loose. A bow takes a beating from that string. It hits it all the time. And it's going to cause input of vibration. And that can loosen up certain screws and stuff. Obviously, if a screw that we've touched, I put blue Loctite on it. But there are other things that come loose, and weights and stabilizers, and we look for those noises, mods coming loose or something breaking. You can hear it, especially when we draw it, because it goes through a rigorous little thing. It's not a long thing to do a tune-up, but it's a little bit, I go through these certain steps. Right. That's what makes us, we call on the higher end of the archery stores. I don't want to say one's better than another. I tell everybody to go to the archery store that's closest to your house. So you'll always practice, you'll always maintenance, and you'll always be up to date on what you need to be doing with your bow. And you'll learn more, you'll participate more. So always get to your local bow shop no matter what it is. I do have people that fly in here and send me their bows and stuff like that. And I appreciate that. I do. But that personal touch, if you have a place that's close by, and this is for all you people that are outside my territory, I would like you to just make sure you get on it. And if you have questions, always email me, and then I can tell you what you could be looking at. And then to take it to your bow shop and say, hey, have them look at this, or you think it might be this. Don't try to tell your bow tech what to do, because they've worked very hard to get what they do, to get their done, I should say, to get their knowledge. As you well know, the only way you get knowledge
is by
through me.
Yeah,
through me. And that's how we get it, and by trial and error. So that brings me to another topic, maintenance. A lot of people want to do their own maintenance. They want to do their own thing. These lessons, and I got to rub my eye because it hurts when I think of this. These lessons that you're seeing on the internet, how to be a bow tech. Listen to me. Bow tech lessons on the internet are just like YouTube videos. They're showing you how to do something. When you bring your bow into an experienced bow tech, that is what you're paying for, is that experience. Archery is you learn about archery by doing mistakes. It's a fact. You learn how to do things, but coming in for a tune-up or maintenance, what I'm looking for is not the stuff that you can do. I'm looking for the stuff that you did not see. Problems, like you mentioned, problems, things that are going wrong, things in the industry that I have found out through my manufacturers to look for things, if somebody comes in with this year of a bow, tell them, hey, we have a new string stop I'm going to put on your bow because this company says change these out whenever they are. Call us and let us know when you need more of them. I have those in my box. That's why we do that maintenance. So it's worth the money to bring it in to your reputable dealer, right? And I say reputable, I mean somebody that's not in their garage or basement, because they do not have the access. Today, called my rep, found out about a bow that was in stock, got it ordered Sunday afternoon. I got it ordered. I'm a reputable dealer. I can do that. And when I say reputable, it means I beat the shit out of my reps to do their goddamn job. She laughs.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yep.
I do not bullshit around.
No.
This is my business. They are the in between me and the manufacturer. When you get in between me and my destination, I'll be goddamned if I'm not going to make you do your job. Right. And that's the way it is. All right. So that being said, when your maintenance, not only am I doing what needs to be done, but I'm also doing it proper, and I'm looking for any possible errors that can happen, cracks and limbs, bearings going bad, things not tensioned properly, things out of whack, something that has moved that you may not notice that my trained eye will see. And in turn, I'm teaching my employees to look for that also prior getting it to me, so they can put notes on the tag so I can address those right away. Okay. So that's basically so Maddy and I made some notes, and those of you who are watching the YouTube, and it's Chicago Archery's To the Point on YouTube. If you're watching this, because we record this and film this at the same time, no editing, no bullshit. It's the way it is. All right. If Maddy didn't do her hair, then that's the way she looks.
Oh, well.
All right. So I'm messing with Maddy as we talk.
Yeah.
So we're going to get into a little bit of that. Another thing I want to mention there is it's springtime. It's getting close. Well, it's turkey. We're in the knee deep of turkey. I got my cousin that got a turkey 2 days ago. We had a guy that's going out tomorrow. I mean, there's a lot of turkey going on right now around the country. Some has started out on the East Coast and South America. They're getting the ones down in South America. Everybody's going for their slam, the Grand Slam, Turkey Grand Slam. So if you're looking for new bows and new information or for your bow and new arrows and the new stuff that's coming out, and you're getting ready to get through turkey season and then buy their stuff and then get your bow set up and get it tuned and ready, now's the time to do it. Believe me. Let's educate the consumer right now. If you need strings for your bow, do it now.
Yeah, it's not worth waiting till deer season, something like that. 'Cause that's what everybody does.
Oh my God. Not everybody. The smart ones do it now. Oh my God. Was it bad last year?
Yeah, our rack was full of people wanting strings.
2 a.m, I was working on strings. And because the string manufacturers, the assholes that they are, and don't get me wrong, some of them are very nice people, but at that time of the year, they're assholes because they're sending me 13 sets. They'll say, okay, just do Chicago Archery. And they'll give because I'll call and be like, man, you owe me 20 sets of strings now. They'll tell one guy to do all of my strings and just start pumping it out. And that son of a bitch will work overtime. And next thing you know, I got 13 sets of strings that I've been waiting 8 weeks for last year. Oh my God, it was horrible. And I felt bad for my customers. I felt bad for the guy that had to work. And I felt really bad for me. But I did somewhat feel bad for my employees, even though that I pay them. But they had to deal with me going, where is everything? And being tired and working and taking off work from my day job just to get these things done. Because if they come in, you guys come first. I'm telling you, there's no bullshit around. Those know, when I get the stuff for you guys, I'm here. I'm doing it. I'm doing this podcast now on my Sunday evening before I got to go to work tomorrow, just like everybody else. And I'm staying late to educate you. Am I hearing a creak? Are you hearing a creak? Oh, it's the table in it.
Is it?
Me leaning on it.
Uh-oh.
So, all right. Anyways.
I don't hear it.
That's what makes a good podcast.
I don't know where you're getting the sound from. I don't know.
It's your head. I don't know. You're squeaking. I think I see the smoke coming from your ears. Oh,
Yeah.
The headphones. It's coming out of the headphones. She's thinking. All right. So as if you guys don't know, Maddy and I have a love-hate situation.
A little bit.
She loves me. I hate her.
It's about how it goes. Yep. Most of the time.
We harass each other all the time. All the time. At first, like I said, she wouldn't talk. Now I can't shut her up. It's like, Maddy, Chatty Cathy, cut it out. No, she's
trying to go home. Yeah. That's what you're saying.
Yeah, that's what I say. I'm trying to go home. Shut up, Maddy. So that's why we put her on the podcast today. You know what that creaking is? It's my ear on my headphones. Can you hear it? Anyways.
Nope.
Okay, I started a little early today, so. All right. That's why this is explicit and vulgar language. Just because of me.
Yeah.
All right. So we're going to get back into it. So as you're going to hear about this year, we're going to talk about tuning and a lot of stuff with tuning. I've done multiple tune your arrow, different processes of setting up your new bow. Listen to those podcasts if you haven't already heard them. We will go back into them over and over and over as new stuff comes out, and then people have redesigned the wheel, per se. There are some great archers out there that really tell it all on some of the stuff that they do. Paige Pierce being one. Love her. She's such a nice person. And she does such a great thing for the archery community especially with the girls. I see it mostly because over 65% of my clientele are female. And she just does a great job. So I got a shout out to Paige. Michael Wydell once said, I don't know if it's an article or not, but he said, even if you're not sponsored by something, if you like it, tell people because it's a good product. Don't let it fall to the wayside, because there are good products out there that have fallen to the wayside because either shops didn't know how to tune it or people just didn't buy it because they didn't market it well, or people didn't understand what they were going for. And that lock rest from Ripcord,
big one. Yeah.
Shout out to Ripcord. That lock rest, we love it. I love it. We use it. We all use it. They discontinued it because they said the sales weren't high. Nothing that was wrong with the rest. I'm sure somebody says something was wrong with the rest. I'll tell you what, I bet I got 2 of them because somebody brought one in, said it wouldn't work right for them. I told them what the problem was. It was them. They were relaxing and getting string flutter and it wasn't reacting well. Well, if you shoot your bow properly, the thing works great, man. I put that rest on my bow and I have it now and I've been using it. So it's freaking great rest. So a lot of times it's ignorance that kills it. All right. So we're going to get into a little bit of the test that Maddy and I did. All right. We're going to try to keep this within 45 minutes. That's going to be
good try.
We're going to try. Maddy and I spent some time last night. Okay. Everybody's talking about this heavy arrows, heavy. So what they do, and they're trying. So most archers are cheap. They're frugal is a nice way of putting it.
Yeah.
I don't use frugal in my shop. I say you're fucking cheap. And I'll tell you, quit trying to be fucking cheap. Do the right thing. If you want to tune your bow and you're going to play with your arrows, or you're trying to tune your bow properly and you're in between, well, you think one arrow will be another, you have to buy the fucking arrows. Don't ask me to supply a fucking arrow for you to tune your bow. If you want to try a different arrow, you got to buy the fucking arrows and you got to try them, as I do.
Yeah.
Maddy will attest to you. I buy a bunch of arrows. I'm tuning a bow right now. I got a new bow from Elite and it's a Remedy. It's not a new bow, by the way. And we're going to talk about that too. I don't shoot the latest and greatest bow all the time. I shoot the bow that fits me well and has good geometry. That's what you should be looking at, not the latest and greatest. If you have to have the latest and greatest, it's an ego thing. It has nothing to do with your archery, because in the last 2 to 3 years, the archery community has not changed immensely. Okay. Some of these bows, as you guys know, you can look at them. Cams have not changed. Mods have not changed. They've just done a little bit to the riser, and that's just a little bit of a programming in a CNC machine. They pop out a new riser that doesn't bolt on with something. Now it's ingraded into the riser. Well, they got to build the new risers anyways. Instead of it, they just say, okay, this is working. I'm going to do it. Now just carve it out of the aluminum instead of me bolting something onto an old riser that they had in stock. All right. So that being said, you all know who the different companies that I'm talking about. And there's quite a few that doing that, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So as you know, on this podcast, I do not call out products a lot. We did just call out the Ripcord because I love that rest. But we try to keep it, so everybody can make up their own decision.
Right.
All right. So we're going to talk about this weighted arrows. And Maddy and I did a test. And we did a test not like with the ballistic gel that you don't have. We did a test with arrows that you can acquire, stuff that you can do yourself. And we did it into a target that you can find at your range. Okay. We did it into a regular target.
Yep.
All right. Did I write down real quick? Yes, I wrote them down. Okay. We're going to talk about what stemmed this and why we're doing it the way we did it. Okay. So those of you that are diehard archers have read. Now, I'm not talking diehard newbie archers. That's what I'm 55 years old. So you young kids. So if you're younger than me, you're younger. You're younger kids. And a lot of the kids that come in here in their 20s and 30s, they're in the YouTube world. So their information comes from media and electronic. In the old days, we read books and wrote things down and sent letters. I know that's not the efficient way of doing things nowadays. I get it. But there is some valuable information in some of those old books. So go out and read about Fred Bear. Go out and read about Fred Asbell. Go out and read about, for the love of God, read about Chuck Adams. All right. Ishii, the archer from the West Coast. He was a Native American Indian. I wanted to be politically correct, but he was an Indian from the West Coast, and he shot black-tailed deer. Chuck Adams refers to him. He was a great archer. Read about some of these accomplished archers read about Ted Nugent, for God's sakes. Uncle Ted is an amazing archer. I saw him as a kid. He's amazing with a bow. He has done such stuff. Look at his older stuff when he didn't use sights, when he was with Fred Bear. The Oneida bow and what he did for them. Unbelievable. Fred Bear. Oh my God. I can go on and on. But anyways, read about them. So this stems from this whole weight forward, heavy arrow bullshit that everybody's talking about. Okay. Where this comes from is people wanting more penetration. So they think that their kinetic energy is going to equal their more penetration.
Yeah, harder hit.
Right. So obviously people come here to us. Remember Katie, right? And Katie's been on a podcast with me. We talked about her 41-pound bow at 28 yards going through and through because we balanced her bow for kinetic energy. Okay. It's not a hard thing to do. You can all do it. So obviously, Maddy and I decided we're being the two mechanical people. We decided to take this to another level.
Yeah. Run a little test with it. See what happens.
Right. And we decided that we were going to debunk some of the bullshit that we hear every day. Right. That's Maddy's exact words. I want to debunk some of the bullshit that we hear every day. Her mom's going to listen to this and say,
I don't know if my parents listen to this, but that is not quite my words, I will say.
She said bullshit. I'm telling you, she said bullshit.
I don't know about that one.
Yeah, Maddy wouldn't say bullshit. Say bullshit, Maddy.
I'm good. just in case my dad listens to this. I don't know if he does or not, but
how old are you, Maddy?
I'm 19.
Okay. Maddy's 19. She won't say bullshit. I want you all to learn a lesson from that. That's good parenting right there. That is good parenting. Her mom and dad are fantastic people.
Yeah.
Okay. So kinetic energy is a mathematical equation that takes mass and velocity and turns it into energy at the target. Okay. That's a basics. Okay. That's what the archers will care about. All right. So kinetic energy is half the mass times the velocity squared. All right. So everybody thinks, well, this thing, and I don't like to call people out, Ranch Fairy. I don't like to call people out, but there's a certain person that is really known for these heavy thing, Ranch Fairy, that would.
Are you implying somebody specifically?
No, I would never imply anybody specific, but people come in and they quote this guy, the Ranch Fairy, of these heavy tips that he likes to do. All right. And the first thing I say out of my mouth is, would you put a stick on a brick and head it down range? Because you can kill a deer with a brick if you drop it on them, or you can at least knock them out and then kill them, right? So even so, a brick is heavier than an arrow. And if you drop a brick on a deer, maybe if you do it just right, you might kill him. But do you think it'll kill him? Maddy, if I drop a brick on a deer, is it going to kill him?
How are you dropping it up?
Let's say 20 feet from your tree stand. A deer comes over, you drop it on its head. Do you think, and anybody that's deer hunted, do you think that I'm going to kill a deer if I drop a brick on its head?
Yeah, I'm not positive on that one.
Right,
yeah.
Right. So you're not exactly sure, right? So a brick weighs pounds where an arrow does not, but yet we can kill an arrow. I can kill a 1,200-pound, 1,400-pound moose in 4 steps with my little bitty arrow.
Yeah.
yet it does not weigh as much as a brick. And then, by the way, I killed my moose in Alaska at 30 feet. Okay, it was close, but I shot it with a FMJ, which certain people, the Ranch Fairy doesn't like. And I shot it with a 100-grain tip. Okay. And it walked 4 steps, and I have proof. Obviously, I got the antlers right here, and I have witnesses, and it's just a good place shot. So accuracy is number one. Proper tuning and matching up your arrow and your bow. So proper flight is key. And I want you to use those words first. Okay. So we're going to get into some notes, which I talked to a certain scientist. Okay. And he's a chemist. All right. So chemistry does a lot with math. Okay. So, but he's also a working scientist for the U.S. government. And he's a Marine Corps buddy of mine. I'm just going to call him Dr. Glenn, because I asked for him to be on the podcast, and he doesn't even take pictures of himself. He was fucking fishing this morning when I talked to him, and he stopped to just get out to the little shallower water so he could talk to me, because we started talking testing. And so there's different types of so there's a theoretical scientist. That's somebody who has an idea and they can prove it on paper and math. Okay. And then there's I guess you call, I didn't ask him this, and I got this basically on my own knowledge. It's like a relative or a real scientist that are physiological. I don't know what they are, but people that prove it. So they take ideas and prove them. So what we did is we took an idea, which is the kinetic energy, and with the heavier arrows, and we did testing. We proved our theory. Okay. So, and I'm sure I'm going to hear about, I don't know what kind of scientist does it's probably on Big Bang Theory or something, but, cause they talk about scientists there. Yeah. So we did some testing and came up with some very interesting results, didn't we, Maddy?
We sure did. Yeah.
So yeah, right. So and I want to segue into this a little bit, because we're going to talk about a little bit about the things with kinetic energy. All right. And I want to watch my time. Okay. We're in a good half hour. Yeah. So kinetic energy, let's talk about it. It's mass, half mass times velocity squared, I believe is what it is. I'm just going off memory on that. Okay. I do know some of the equations, different stuff like Pythagorean theorem and all that other stuff. The thing is what you want. First and foremost, you want to match up your arrow, weight, spine, all these things and how they relate to your bow, right? And the speed that's coming out and the torque and your cams. And that's why we tune our bows. We don't tune our bow to the arrow. We try to tune our arrow to the bow, because your bow is a constant. You can turn the speed up or down, right? But a lot of people do that. They pull what they can comfortably, right? So they can do it in cold weather and stuff like that.
Right.
You want your bow straight and true. Let's just say that those things are good to go, right? Because an untuned bow, you lose kinetic energy. If your arrow is not tuned to your bow, you lose kinetic energy. Okay. Let's talk about that. So my buddy, who was obviously in the Marine Corps with me, he was on the Montana National Guard shooting team also. That's how he got through part of college. His brain got him his PhD. Is unbelievable. He came up with stuff that he got patents and all these other things for. So he's a very, very sharp individual. And I go to him because we have a lot of likes and we're brothers. And the first thing he said is, make sure your arrow is tuned to your bow. You're going to get more kinetic energy out of it that way. So whatever modifications you do to your arrow, and this segue is for the arrows, it has to tune to your bow, right, Maddy?
Yep.
Okay. So that's going to play into what we're talking about for our testing. Okay. So because we did a seminar at ATA this year, right? I take all my employees down to ATA, and we went to a seminar, and it was about arrows and tuning broadheads. And it talked about mechanicals where you lose kinetic energy on the opening, just because when it hits, you lose so much kinetic energy as soon as it hits. But the fact that it has to hit and open, what they say, 12 pounds you lose on the average for mechanical. Some less, some more, depends. But you lose up to 12 pounds of kinetic energy just opening and cutting through. Okay. Because fixed blade automatically cuts and is going through, and you're losing as it goes through, but there's nothing else to take the energy away. Okay. A mechanical has to open. So no matter what they say, it opens on impact. It is opening on impact. Okay. Keep that in mind. So there are broadheads out there, and we have some here that are mechanical, but I like, because I buy the stuff that comes into my shop, I buy a mechanical that already has at least an 1/16 opening or a fixed blade on it, at least a 2-blade fixed blade on it. That way we get ethical kills, because I'm about an ethical kill when you're hunting, right? So that being said, all right. So if you have a helical in your veins, the steeper the helical, the more wind resistance, the slower it's going to go. Velocity, right there, you're going to lose kinetic energy. These are facts, all right? Your arrow is the wrong spine, right? If it's the wrong spine on the weaker side, it's going to bend, which is going to take some of the energy out from the bow. Mm-hmm. It's going to cost you kinetic energy. If your arrow comes out, right, and it's not properly lined up, it's going to have to correct itself. That in turn, wind resistance, velocity. Okay. So if you're doing your tests, make sure you get your velocity at 6 feet and at 20 or 30 feet. Okay. 23 feet, I think, is a magical number. You're not going to want to know how I got that number, but that comes from years and talking to people and dealing with other people that tune bows a lot. Okay. And I look up to these guys, right? So I'm giving you examples. So now when you add weight to the front of your arrow, you weaken the spine, correct? Mm-hmm. Okay. So I go to this where these people want to add these 150, 200, 400 grain, 300, 200, 300, 400 grain tips or broadheads to the front of their arrow that was tuned to their bow. That arrow is no longer tuned to your bow. When you go to paper tune it, you're going to have issues. There's always going to be somebody that says, mine paper tune's fine. Fine. Bullshit. Okay. That's all I got to say for it. They'll come to me and they'll say, I could chew it. I could prove it. I said, bullshit. Go away. Bullshit. Okay. You're not going to take a tuned arrow with a 100 grain tip or 125 grain tip and put a 400 grain on there and it's going to paper tune. It's just not going to happen. All right. You're taking a stick and pushing a brick. Okay. That's where it goes. That's my opinion. Send me the hate mail. I don't fucking care. I'm just going to do this. I'm going to wipe it off my shoulder. I don't care. I know what I've done. I've been doing this a long, long time, and I can prove you wrong every single time. And I'm not out to do it. If you don't like what I have to say, too bad. Maddie's over here turning her red. She's like, oh, shit. Here comes the hate mail, and I'm on the video podcast with them. All right, that's fun. Whatever.
It's mostly directed.
As you look at the podcast, if you look at the podcast, I'm not a little man. Come in, kick my ass. It'll be fun too. Right? You know how it is. So, anyways. Okay, after that, I need a drink. All right. So that is facts. That's science. That's whatever you want to call it. That's facts. You're going to lose kinetic energy with any of those improperly tuned things. So you need to have a well-balanced system, period. Right?
Right.
Right. So like when you're talking to somebody, so when we do tests on bow, like I'm doing tests on my bow, I used more than one arrow. I got close. I got really good paper tuning. I got really good 30-yard consistency out of my bow. With the hunting setup and the way I'm going to be hunting and, the stance that I hunt and all this. And not everything about consistency is just your bow. You don't just put your thing in a hooter shooter and shoot your bow. You got to stand like you're standing on a tree stand, or sitting like you're sitting in a blind. You got to get that consistency the way you hunt if you're hunting, or target shoot the way you're target shooting. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So this applies to target shooting too, because you want the consistency on your bow. You hear about all these knock tuning and all that. That's a whole other podcast. But what we're talking about here is they're going for these heavy arrows. All right. So the other thing is people go with, I want to weight my arrow. Right.
Mm-hmm.
Now, depending on where you put that. So if you put it all in the tip, you got this ginormous FOC. And when you weight the front, or you weight the arrow, you lose in velocity. It's going to kill your kinetic energy, period. You're not going to get penetration just by weighting your arrow, balancing your arrow. Correct, Maddy?
Yeah. A lot of people tend to talk about putting weight just in the tip, or changing inserts, changing tips. So that's where we're kind of coming from with this.
Right. So what we always tell them is grab 3 arrows, buy a dozen, buy a half a dozen, grab 3 arrows, set them up in a normal way, and then start doing your changes, whether it's lengthening, shortening, adding brass tips to get more FOC. Now, FOC is good. Let me talk about that for a second. FOC is good for long range. It pulls the arrow through the air. Okay. If you got too much weight in the back, like large veins are for control. So if you're shooting at short distance, that's why you see those long veins. Just if you see Jesse Broadwater using a 4 or 5 inch vein by, an inch and a half high or whatever at Vegas, that doesn't mean that should be your hunting arrow just because he won Vegas. It means that at 20 yards, that's where he gets the most amount of control, because he got 4 veins on there. I get away from Jesse because I think he only used 3 this year. But the thing is you're getting more control with the veins, and the distance isn't that bad. He doesn't have to worry about drag. So, but if you're shooting long distance, you want a lower vein. You want that thing to pull more. Right? You want less drag behind, because you can tell when you got drag behind, because your tail end of your arrow will kind of like twirl. It'll be dragging. It's like pulling it back, right? So it'll kind of like helicopter a little bit, So, or fishtail, I guess you would say. So you got to look at these things. What are you doing with the arrow? So you set your arrow up for hunting, okay, and let's say 40 yards or less. Let's just go with that. All right. And you're going with your weight. Now, what made us do the test, and I keep referring to this test because I'm not going to do the results till later, because Maddy was like, why don't you just add it in the front? Why don't you just take, if you want to add 50 more grains up front, why don't you just put, instead of 100, 150? Well, I said, well, I wanted to do something different. I didn't want the total FOC. I try to keep my arrows 12% FOC, between 9 and 12 FOC. I'll let that sink in. 9 to 12 FOC. I get great results, 60 yards and less, with a 12 or less FOC. I'm usually in the 10 area. Okay. If you don't know how to do FOC, email me. I will do another podcast on it. because I
Yeah.
believe I've already done one.
I know you did
Early days
we
last
did
year.
an arrow tuning one, but
Yeah.
I don't remember if it went into that.
Were you on it?
No,
Oh, I was gonna say, you guys, I don't remember you doing a podcast. I'm
No,
thinking, man, I've
that's
been
the first one.
drinking too much today. Yesterday or last week, whatever it is. So, anyways, so let's talk a little bit about this kinetic energy. So you got your mass, half mass times velocity, blah, blah, blah. Look it up online. You can make a spreadsheet. You can add in your numbers. You can do what you want to do. And you're going to end up with these great kinetic energy. If you have a bow, your bow is a constant. It's a 70-pound bow. It's at a certain draw length. It does a certain speed, okay, with your standard arrow. Get that as your base. Then you add mass. What's going to happen?
Kinetic energy is it's gonna change.
Right. Because you add mass. It's going to add because the mass went up and the speed is going to go down. Okay. What's that mean for us? Well, in an unbalanced world, if you put 400 grains or 200 grains up front, right? I run 1 to no more than 125 up front. That's me. Okay. Any other change than that, I'm going to put into the shaft. And then we're going to explain that here in a little bit too. Okay. So if you add mass, it's going to slow the arrow down. It's heavier. Same bow. You add weight on your arrow, it's got to slow it down. It's not going to speed it up. I'm telling you that. So it's going to change it. So what have you changed in your kinetic energy? And this is the beauty. So Dr. Glenn says you're going to slow it down, but you're going to lose your punch. Okay. And this is going to go, me saying this. So this is all stuff that was said to me before we did our test today. And we did the test, and without a doubt, it proved it 100%. This guy literally called it out on me, right? So what happened was we slowed it down with weight, right? And because it lost its punch. So its ability to penetrate was it was affected because of the speed. So if you're going to change anything, you want to change some of the speed, correct?
Right.
Okay. So Dr. Glenn says, all right, he says that the thing you want to change is your velocity. Now, I've always said, damn it, don't worry about the speed. And I say that a lot. But if you want to change anything with the bow and arrow system that you have, the thing you want to change is the speed. Correct? Okay. If you can't make your bow any faster, which some of the companies, and I'm not going to mention who, Bowtech, they have a performance mod compared to a comfort mod, which speeds up your bow. So you can do that. Elite also, I mean, another company does that. Also, they have a performance mod that goes along. Okay. So you want to look into if you're going to speed up your boat, and it's only going to speed it up a little bit, but you will get a little bit more kinetic energy. You will get a little bit more penetration. Not hitting bone is another thing. Okay. So if you have a fixed blade not hitting the bone, you're going to go through pretty much anything in North America. So with a 70-pound bow, 60-pound bow. Okay. All right. And that's at your normal 30 yards or less is where we keep our standard at. Okay. All right. So we're getting close to our time. I just looked at my watch. Those you guys don't know, because I can tend to ramble. But I ramble because I have a lot to give you. We did a lot in the last couple of days. So let's talk about our little test, Maddy. Let's talk about what we did, and then we're going to give you the results. And this is going to be the food for thought for you all. All right. And I want you all to listen to this. All right. We're going to give you real time, no BS, straight what you can do at your own range. your own house, get your own damn results. I have the 4 arrows here. I have the weights and everything for them. You can use these 4 arrows. I'm not going to cut them down. I'm not going to change them for you. But if you want to come in and use these arrows to get somewhat of a kinetic energy test for yourself and penetration test, you're more than welcome. And we can change the tips. They all have 100 grain tips on them. We can change the grain tips to 125 if you want to see the difference between a 100 and 125. But then, and obviously you can do all your tuning and everything else. But hands down, let's talk about what we did. Okay, Maddy, talk to me. Tell me a little bit about, these are our notes, okay? I got a notebook. For those of you that are looking on YouTube and see me handing this notebook is the piece of paper that Maddy and I wrote on ourselves, okay? And this is all the information, okay?
Yeah, so
tell us a little bit about the arrow, Maddy.
How in depth do you want to get in with how we built it first off?
You don't have to tell them everything.
All right.
We used insert glue, first of all. We used 2 arrows.
2 arrows, yep.
We used 2 arrows. I want to talk about, okay, we used my bow. My bow is a 30-inch Elite Remedy, 30-inch draw length. We didn't do the speed. That's the one thing we didn't do. We didn't do the speed. You could probably come in and we can shoot the arrow. We didn't shoot the arrows for each speed because we ran out of time because we had a Girl Scout troop that came in. Yeah. So we couldn't do that, but it doesn't matter. It's an Elite Remedy, 70 pounds, set at a 30-inch draw. I shoot a 300 spine arrow, but we used a 350 spine arrow because we had to use a different arrow because it's a little larger diameter. Because to weight the arrow, what did we do, Maddy?
To weight the arrow, we took a really thin diameter carbon arrow.
We used the 600
spine.
600 spine vector.
Yep.
We used we used a Victory arrow. It was the V-Force.
Yep.
We used the V-Force arrow, 350 spine.
Yep. 100 grain tip on it. Whole arrow length, 31.5. We took the weight of that. Then we ended up putting we did 3. We had 1 control arrow. Then we had 3 others. One added 50.8 grains, one added 101.6, one added 201.5, just approximate for 50, 100, and 200 extra.
But how did we add the weight?
But how we did that was we cut down the vector arrow, which is thinner diameter, and we ended up using insert glue to glue it inside of the shaft of the V-Force.
Okay, so what happens is we found that this Vector 600 spine fits
almost perfect,
perfect inside, but it left just a hair for us to put insert glue around the or epoxy, I guess. It was epoxy insert glue. You just want to make sure you guys understand what it is. We didn't just use super glue or anything because that's hard and it'll crack and it'll creak and make noises. So we used an insert glue, which is an arrow glue that won't make noise, and an insert epoxy, and we put it inside the arrow because it left just enough room, and we evenly coated it and spun it, putting it in. So we had an even coat. So we have an even amount. All right. We did not check the deflection of spine and how it affected it because each arrow had a different weight. We did 50 grains, 100 grains, and then 200 grains. And the reason they're like 201.5 is because we were cutting them on the saw and I didn't really want it. I wanted to get basic general. This is all stuff that you can do at home yourself. I want this to be real. This is not bullshit. Oh, it was 100 grains exact. Fuck that. We are doing it like you would do at home. Hey, this is going to be the reaction that I'm going to get out of it. Right. So we did that. Now, why did I just add an arrow on the inside of an arrow instead of just using
silicone or caulk or something.
Or well, we had issues with the silicone and caulk. We did try it. It used to be the way we did it with the aluminum arrows a long time ago, but this is a little bit more precise. We could have used an RIP RIP arrow from Victory where you can add the weights, or we could use a target arrow from Easton, the 23s, where you can add the weights. You can screw them in and out. You can do that too. If you have, like, if you want to do this kind of testing and you want to do it a little bit without ruining arrows like we are doing, you can get the Victory RIPs here, and we have the weights and the tool, and we can add the weights on right through the knock. You pull the knock out and you add the weight down. So this is all stuff that you can do and what people do all the time. Okay. But I did this because I get back to what I was talking about earlier. I read books as a child, and younger, I should say younger. And there was a book, Life at Full Draw by Chuck Adams. Tremendous archer. This guy, he's a superb person and archer. And I think he was the first person, this is my opinion, I think he was the first person to kill an elephant with a bow and arrow. Okay. And he wanted deep penetration, and he wanted it to keep pushing through into the vitals, right? So what he did is he did the kinetic energy. So he wanted to speed it up to get more. He needed the kinetic energy, so he needed the weight. So he wanted to use, I think he used a 90-pound or more bow, and he put an arrow inside of an arrow to get the right deflection for his spine and the weight for the kinetic energy. And he balanced them out to get what he could. And there's probably more to it. It's been decades since I read that book. And I have a leather bound copy of that book, by the way. He's a tremendous archer, and he did so much for the archery world. So, but he had these arrows made to do it, to get what he could, to get the kinetic energy you need. So there's more than just adding a tip to your arrow. Okay. So that's why we did it this way. So I did it old school style, but yet with new school materials. Mm-hmm. Right. Okay. So now we did it out of my bow at 20 yards into a brand new Morel target, like they use at Vegas and all these other targets, that big square 4x4 target, brand new foam, brand new cover, which is a double mesh cover. Okay. And brand new foam inside. It has a stopper, the same stop. So we did the regular arrow, shot all 4 arrows at one right after another, 20 yards, same spot, just moved our weight just a couple inches down from each other. I'm not going to pull it. If you want to see the picture, it'll be on our Facebook, I guess. I'll put it on the Facebook. Okay. Instagram, Facebook. It'll be on Chicago Archery, Instagram, Facebook. Okay. So remember, this was a 31.5-inch arrow. That's from the center of the string to the end of the insert. Okay. Yep. 31.5. So now the first arrow went in. Okay. What we measured is from the target, flat ruler, from the target to the center of this, where the string is going to be at. Okay. So how much should we have sticking out on the first arrow?
So on the first arrow, this is the one it was just the plain V-Force, didn't have anything on the inside. That was
V-Force 350, plain.
V-Force 350.
Right. Yep. 419 grains with the tip, 100 grain tip. Mm-hmm. Okay.
It was sticking out of the target 19.25 inches.
Okay. So that means that was our penetration, 19.25 inches less than 31.5. Okay. Arrow number 2 was what?
It was the Victory. We had 50 grains into it. So the weight of the whole arrow was 478.6. That one had 19 3/8 sticking out of the target.
So it did not penetrate as far. an eighth of an inch less, 50 grains more, same bow, added weight to the arrow, same everything arrow. These are out of the same lot, by the way, these arrows. When you buy Victory arrows, they're all the same weight arrow. They're written on the box if you don't know Victory. That's why we use them. Okay. They're that way. Okay, go ahead.
The third one, that's when we added 101.6 grains in the for the shaft and the inside. It came out to 534.6 grains total. That one was sticking out 19 and a half inches.
So that got even less penetration. Same bow, same distance, same spot. I didn't even move my feet. Okay. Now, if you're wondering if it's not an exact weight, it's because the glue. Remember, glue has mass also. So as you add the 100 grains, depending on how much glue you want, if we have a longer shaft that's going inside, you have more glue. So there's going to be a little variance there. So it's not an exact 101.6 more than the last one. There's more glue too. So there's even a little bit more weight on there. So that's why we gave the total arrow grain, right?
Yep.
Okay, go to our last arrow, our fourth arrow.
Last one was 201.5 grains and came out to 634.2. And that one had 21 and a quarter inches sticking out of the target.
So the one that was sticking out, so that's 21 and a quarter. Okay. That's 2 inches more sticking out at 20 yards. So it did not penetrate. It penetrated less, 2 inches less than the standard arrow with over 200 grains more. You got less penetration. Same bow. Okay. So now let's also put a couple facts in here too, that the insert that went inside for the 100 or for the 50 grain was 6 3/4 inches long. The one for the 100 grain was 13 and a half inches, and it was 28 inches long to get 200 grains out of this insert that we put in there. Okay. So we added the mass and tried not to get the FOC. So it'd still fly. You'd still have a good flying arrow, a more precise. And I'll be honest with you, I was shooting that arrow and they were only inches apart. Inches apart. And I moved it. So I literally, if I wanted to, I could have stacked those arrows. Right? Maddy, I was right. The first one was right on. Okay. So needless to say, okay. Now you can see when we went from a 50 to 100, or excuse me, 100 to 200, when we added 100 is when we really made a change because we slowed the arrow down so much. So Dr. Glenn says, if you want to change anything for your kinetic energy, if you're going to change anything, and if what little you can do, change your speed, because you get more results by changing your speed. Because this proves it right here. The weight is not going to change with your bow just by having the same bow. And you want, because I hear a lot of people, oh, I didn't go through and through. You might have hit double bone, 3 bones. You might have came on a quartering 2 and hit one rib, another rib, and came down on an angle and hit part of the rib and a shoulder. That's probably why you didn't get the through and through that you wanted. There's a lot of factors that go into that. But if you want more kinetic energy out of the same bow and the same arrow, you just got to speed it up. And that's going from a 125 tip to a 100. That's your big deal there. Or changing your arrow. Go from an FMJ to an Easton Access or a Victory VAP. You know what I'm saying? lighten it up. Go from an 11 grain arrow per inch to a 9 grain per arrow per inch, no matter what the brand. You know what I mean? Don't ruin your tune and spine, because if you change something, make sure everything is tuned together. Right? Am I wrong?
No.
Okay. Our little test is our little test, but it is a test that you can do. It's one of the cheaper tests you can do. Okay. And it's one of the best ways to get your bow to get the best kinetic energy and penetration that you're looking for in a hunting situation. All right, man. We did our hour plus. All right. We're gonna have to sign this off. All right. So that's the basics for this podcast. We got Maddy to talk, and this is going to be a big deal because Maddy rarely talks.
It's a breakthrough, yeah.
It's a breakthrough. Listen to her even talking to herself. All right. So the conclusions for our podcast today is don't drink and drive. Don't do drugs, kids.
Don't eat yellow snow.
Don't. Man, out of nowhere.
Just adding to your collection there.
Oh my God, you could tell you're your dad's kid.
Yeah.
All right, your dad's gonna love you for that one. Yeah, it was great having you, Maddy. I love having you around. That's why I wouldn't let you leave. When she went through school and she's like, I'm going to be getting a full-time job. I said, I don't care. You're still coming in on the weekends.
I wouldn't give it up. No.
Yeah. We had a lot of fun. Remember, if you got any questions, come in and talk to me. I always answer whatever I can. If I can't, I will try to prove it like we did today. They wanted a test. The way it was I want a test that I can do with my stuff. I don't have an unlimited budget. This is what I'm going to do. And this is what we did. And obviously I have these arrows. You can come in. You got the data on the arrows. I can give them to you if you come in, and you can come and do your own test if you like on my targets. Do what you want to do. Just remember, have fun with it. Archery is about fun. Have fun. And, take a kid out hunting. All right. From me and Maddy, say goodbye, Maddy.
Goodbye.
All right, everybody. Take care, and we'll see you on the next one. Oh, and if I miss something, yeah, I probably missed it. I'll get it on the next one. Send me an email.
Yeah.
Take care. Bye-bye.
See ya.